Finance Committee, and I'll ask the clerk to note that all members of the Finance Committee are here for the record. And we're also joined by the Finance Director, Susan Wright, as well as the City Treasurer, George Zimmerman, is also here today. So welcome. And I guess as I'm introducing other city staff, we also have the city's energy officer, Chris Mason. And so the first item is the approval of our minutes of March 27th, 2012.
Move approval.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, so there's been a motion made and seconded to approve our March 27th minutes. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, great. So in terms of a FY 2012 update, we're going to go through a few items that are sort of lingering and the ones that we've had questions about. And the first is the fees in the city clerk's office. And I can ask Susan to explain the spreadsheet that she presented to you.
Right. I just did a printout from Munis that compares the 9 months into the fiscal year for 09, 10, 11, and 12. So you can just see the city clerk fees. So in 2011, at this point, at the end of March, we had $124,000 in city clerk fees, and this year we have 96. So we're down about 28,000 in the city clerk fees. I had said originally like 36, but then I realized Wendy had not gotten her turnover hadn't gotten into the system. So once we added March in, it brought it down to about 28,000. So fees have dropped off. I don't have more detail than that as to why. The miscellaneous fees, I think, are a number of things, including birth certificates, etc. And I think people can now get those in their own community. Like if you're born in Northampton, but you can get the certificate in your own community now. Isn't that?
Because it's all electronic now, and so you can actually go through your own. If you live in Hatfield, born in Cooley Dick, I believe you can get it at your own city hall now. You don't have to come to Northampton. So that may be cutting into the amount. And so they're all typed up online.
And burials, I mean, that's not something we control. Anybody controls. So, and then the copies, again, I didn't have a chance to talk to Wendy to find out more in detail, but I did want to at least give you the numbers. I mean, this, in the terms of our budget, this is not tremendously significant, but it is something that I'm lowering in the FY 13.
Well, it should be noted that from 2009 to 2012, the one constant is that it's wildly variable. You start off with 68,848 in 2009, and then you're up in 2010 substantially, and then 2011, of course, seems to be the peak, but there doesn't seem to be a constant here. So,
right. Sure. 2010, you went to a long form on the birth certificate, which doubled the price. It went from $5 to $10, and there was a lot of. That was a big activity because we had asked that question. But still, it's really all over the radar here.
And they don't do passports anymore.
Right. Or fishing licenses.
Or hunting, fishing,
licenses.
sporting. Yeah.
Yes.
I know I talked with Wendy about the passports. She said they never made money on it.
Right.
The dog licenses, this is just a point of information. I talked to individuals that have dogs that have not licensed them, and they haven't licensed them in years because they're afraid when they go in, they're going to get fined, and actually that's not the case. We try to be pretty user-friendly about it because I want these dogs to be licensed, and I want them to have their shots and all that. So there's a concept out there that if you come in with a dog that hasn't been licensed in 4 or 5 years or 3 years or 2 years, you're going to get this enormous fine. And I tell them it's not the case. Go in and they'll license your dog. They'll charge you the $5 or. So anyway, I think that's a huge. They're not licensed. If they haven't licensed a dog in a year, they're afraid to come in because they're going to get fined.
Okay.
So I don't know how to get that out there, but I explain to everybody just Wendy's not going to shoot you when you come in the door. Just license your dog. So anyway,
okay.
Let's get going.
Mayor, I did talk with Wendy about and so forth. And she used as an example, a woman had come in and she did not charge her a late fee on that. So I would suggest that you talk to Wendy, because I don't think it's really such a huge problem out there.
Mhm.
Talking with Wendy, and probably he could be right about some of the people might feel a little frightful about being fined, but I don't know about 5 years or anything like that. Wendy would know more about that.
Okay.
That is actually where I got the information from.
I did too.
So that's the update on the city clerk fees. And again, mainly I think we just wanted to show you what we were basing our decision to slightly downgrade the revenue for next year. The next item is just a preview of an order that will need to come forward on for the May 3rd council meeting, and that is an EMS transfer. And we just wanted to give you a preview of that. That's under the current system where we operate with the receipt reserve. This is what they will need to have transferred from the receipt reserve in order to keep the ambulance service running. And so, no votes today, we just wanted to give you a preview of it.
And this will be the last appeal for this, and
Should,
for survival.
It should be.
Yeah.
yeah, so this could be the last time we do one of these receipt reserve transfers. That's correct.
So it will never come back
Well, it'll come to you in a budget.
in a full budget?
You'll see a full budget for the year, and obviously,
And this will be in it.
as with normal fire department operations, if there's some kind of a, extraordinary situation, they would have to come back for a transfer, but it would be from free cash, it would not be from a, just like any other department that needed some kind of an additional, like veterans or whatever else, so.
Is this the total amount that will be left in that, in the account?
The total amount,
No, this is just, for the payroll and everything to get to the end of the year.
Okay.
And the account will have, I think, Chris Norris told me anywhere from $500,000 or $600,000.
Okay. That's what I thought. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, because it continues to accrue funds, we take money out, but, they've already billed for things that will come in. and-
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the balance will go to free cash
Yeah.
when we close the receipt
Yeah.
reserve.
so he'll come in, and we'll have the regular presentation at our regular finance committee meeting and city council meeting on May 3rd. So that's just a heads up on that, a preview of that. The next item, again, this is one that we're gonna do as part of the FY12 process. This is, you'll see a couple of different orders here. One was the creation of a revolving fund in June of 2011. What we're going to be asking, coming forward with on May 3rd, is to create a new revolving fund that would supersede the old one, and it would basically, the funds would be transferred from the old one into this new one, and then it would be renewed as part of the FY13 budget. So it would be presented as among all the other revolving funds that we would renew in FY13, but first we want to create it in this current fiscal year. And so I can add, I don't know if you want to add, or you want to have Chris add anything.
I think we'll have Chris, but just to clarify, the old fund was named Energy Reinvestment Revolving Fund, and the new one is gonna get called Energy and Sustainability Revolving Fund. So what will happen is, on June 30th, the old one will go away, and then we'll create this new one in May, and then because it's a revolving fund, it has to annually be renewed, so we'll renew it again. But Chris Mason's kind of here to explain why we're changing the purpose of why we're getting rid of the old one and creating a new one.
Okay, so this stems from the fact that the city is now selling solar renewable energy certificates from the PV array that was installed at Smith Vocational. And the question came up is, where do we put this money? And the old fund was looked at, and kind of in a nutshell, was decided instead of having multiple different funds, we would combine them into one, so that the city didn't have to track all these different funds, and can combine some purposes. So the solar renewable energy certificates we received grant money from the Department of Energy Resources for the Green Communities Grant in order to put the array in. And that grant proposal had stipulated it be used for energy efficiency programs for residential and business properties. So programs that would help them increase their energy efficiency. The Energy Commission very strongly wants it to be used, and I agree with them, wants it to be used for municipal projects as well. Matter of fact, even prioritizing some of the municipal projects. LED street lighting is one of them that came out. The old fund was just for municipal buildings, and it was an idea that if you increase some energy efficiency, you can roll some of the savings back so that you reinvest it into more energy efficiency. Well, this fund allows you to do that.
That
And
also predated the ESCO too. which is
Yes, that,
important.
right. And then that old fund wasn't used much largely because the ESCO was a separate way of doing it, another way of getting at the same problem. And it was, we chose to go with the ESCO instead of using a revolving loan fund, which would have been a longer, slower process. The ESCO process, which was a much faster process. Hope I'm not losing everybody. So this fund is kind of superseding that fund, and it allows us to bring revenue in per agreement from the mayor. So, you know, if we get rebate money in and the mayor says that's going to go for the ESCO, it's not going to go into this fund, that's where it goes. You know, so the money coming in is approved by the mayor. And then upon approval by the Energy Commission and by the mayor, the city can spend money on energy efficiency programs and policies that help municipal, private, anything that we feel is advisable. And the SREC is going to be bringing in a nice amount of money over about 10 years. Any questions? Okay.
Actually, the SREX, Chris is being somewhat modest, managed to lock in a rock and roll price for those certificates that, in the reason we were faced with this dilemma of what to do with the money that we have, as we discussed it, now to prioritize it, because there, and I think and that speaking as one of the energy commissioners, one of the concerns was it would be nice to actually do a project that is evident to the public, so the public can understand the reinvestment, the value of reinvestment, the benefit to retrofitting in deep retrofits, shallow retrofits, or just analyzing anything that has energy efficiency in the community. And there's a manifestation of it in purchases made with these savings, and then also the sales of these SRECs, as they're called. So, and he's right, LED street lighting was one of the considerations. There's still some things looming, like a price. The price of the National Grid is yet to figure out how they want to charge you for it. But we'll get there. But it's actually, this is a good problem to have, as it were. And I'm glad that this is actually what you guys came up with. This is a great idea for this revolving fund to have a broader aegis. I like that.
Counselor.
I mean, this is appropriate, but still have the looming question still about the ESCO and how we're gonna know whether or not we've saved that money.
Well, we actually, you can answer this, but I mean, Dave Honorance, the Central Services Director, has begun now a conversation with Con Ed, actually meeting with them, I think, this week. And we are beginning to look at the analysis phase now and start that phase. I mean, obviously, we're still in the construction phase, but we believe that we're putting them on notice that we need to begin to see the data of what the savings has been. Is that a correct characterization?
Yeah. I mean, the city, we're looking at the savings ourselves, but there is an official measurement and verification phase, which can go on for quite a long time because, I mean, there's a lot of different factors that play in to whether or not you actually get your savings. Whether do you actually turn the thermostat down? Did you get a really warm winter? Did you get a really cold winter? So, but we need to look at it building by building, looking at the savings. And if we're not seeing the savings that they guarantee us, then they have to fix the problem, or they write us a check. And we want them to get the savings. So, but that's a measurement and verification phase. It's the next phase of the project, and it'll take a lot of kind of going through all the papers and stuff and looking it over, and that's where we're starting that now.
I would guess that my question is, who is it that's going to determine whether or not we're getting that savings? Who is going to determine whether or not we are saving that money? If you can answer that, I'll be happy.
Okay, there's
Well, I'll be happy with how the answer comes out.
right. There's the contract spells out how the savings are to be measured, and it's different for different things. You put a light bulb in, and you have a lower wattage light bulb, and it's used the same number of hours a year. You know what your savings is going to be. No one even has to go back and look at it. You just kind of know it. So with that, we can look at our electric bills and we can say, are we seeing the savings that we're expected to get? If we're not, we can go back and make sure the light bulbs actually are the light bulbs we thought, maybe. But it gets a lot more complicated when you get to boilers and other things, because HVAC systems are very, very complicated. Energy management systems are very complicated. So the measurement and verification will be different in there, but we will be looking at our energy bills and looking at our use. And if we're not seeing something in line, then we go back to Con Ed and say, you've got to prove to us why this isn't in line. And they may come back and say, well, you're using that building, half again as much as you thought you were going to use it. The libraries are open more often, or the Academy of Music's been real busy this year. And so, well, in that case, the energy savings aren't in the bills because we're using it more. That's an example. So we have to look at them, each piece.
It's still in the, because I made sure that I had gotten the entire book, the contract, and what the updates were gonna be. And I read it pretty thoroughly, and I noticed everything that was going to be done, and then at a meeting subsequent to that, they were cutting things out that weren't going to be done. But the number was still $6.25 million. And so, and they are the ones that cut things out because they said they couldn't afford to do them?
No, the cutting process was, that was directed by the city. And some of the things that we were that were proposed actually would have cost more. For instance, at Forbes Library, there was a dehumidification system that was proposed to put in because it would have managed to give better storage of the papers there. It would have maintained them. That actually would have cost the city more money. I mean, it would have cost us, it would have increased our energy use. It wouldn't have decreased it. So that's one of the things that was taken out. So, I mean, it was a whole balance, and we were trying to find what savings would allow us to pay off the bond, whatever size it was.
I think the confusion came in for me was when it was presented to us. We had this book, and this is what we were going to do. And
okay.
And we had $6.25 million to spend on that.
Right.
And then, as the project goes on, we're still obligated to the $6.25 million, and we're not getting what was in the book.
Yeah,
that was the confusing part.
Okay, I could see why if that's the way it came across, but I mean, the price fluctuated, and at times the price was over the 6.25, and we said we have to bring it down.
Yeah. But what came to council though was $6.25 million.
Right.
In this elaborate book.
And the book you got was called an investment grade audit, so that's really a proposal. That's not the contract. That's the proposal, and when you dive into the details of the proposal, we had to bring it down to get to that $6.25 million. Sometimes we had to trade off, some measures that had fast paybacks with longer paybacks, swapping them in and out, and looking at the priorities of the city. In some cases, like the windows, there's a long payback for windows, but it's a priority because we really needed new windows. So, stuff like that.
I get it, but I asked all these questions at the meeting about what we were getting.
Yeah.
We were getting this, we were getting that, it was $6.25 million. It didn't turn out to be that way, so And I think, and I spoke with several counselors about it also, and they also had the exact same feeling I had.
Okay,
Which included the windows in, at the building inspector, the board of health,
right.
many things. I understand, I thought we would have got something when we took out the Florence Grammar School, we removed that from the program, but we didn't. We didn't get anything added to it.
And we may have added something back in at the same time.
Okay, I just
So-
didn't see that, but that's okay. But that was my concern. I was just concerned about, I didn't feel as though, we had all the information at the right time. And so then I find that that they are gonna be the ones that are going to tell us how much we've saved. And I hope that's not the case. And I brought that up to the city council also, so.
No, they're not gonna say, hey, you saved this much. I mean, we're looking at how much we're saving,
Okay.
absolutely.
Thank you.
Councilor Labarge.
Yes, what was the cost of replacing all the windows at City Hall?
I couldn't
Do you
tell
have
you.
an idea?
I couldn't tell you offhand.
Has there been any problems replacing them?
Oh, there was some installation, you know.
Because they're so old?
No, it was more. I think they tried a trial window and it didn't quite fit right in the way it fit in with the upper window, so they had to go back. Didn't cost the city any more money. It was, you know, hey guys, this isn't working. Go back and bring something else in. There was a little bit of that.
So, so this is just a preview of an order that we're gonna bring forward in May. Are there any questions about it? Okay, so we'll bring this forward in May. And again, this will be mainly to phase out this now kind of outmoded fund, and create a fund that more fits the character of what we're trying to do with energy efficient, reinvesting energy efficient, credits and other revenues that we get, so.
And the money remaining in the old fund,
Yeah.
I will be giving you a transfer before the end of the year to transfer what is left in the old one to seed the new one, okay? So you'll see that as well.
Okay. No other
Okay.
questions?
Thank you.
Certainly.
Thank you, Chris.
Yep.
So, so that is the FY 2012 stuff. The FY 2013 update, there's one order, again, this is a preview order, that you'll see. Mainly, it'll come to you as part of the budget, but we still wanted to give you a preview of it now, because it'll be a new, financial order that you have not seen before. And it's essentially to create a revolving fund for James House, so that we have a way to better track all the money and expenses for the James House project, similar to what we've done for the Florence Community Center. And so I don't know if you wanna give me more detail on that, just as a track.
We're gonna run it like we run Florence Community Center. The, costs associated with the building will, come out of the fund, as well as the revenue associated with the rentals will come into the fund. So it'll be its own cost center. That way we can determine, you know, quite easily whether this is, you know, whether we need to tweak things or do things to make sure that it's not a drain on the city services, or city budget.
No, we have, excuse me,
Sure.
we have two leases from two different, programs in there, is that correct?
Correct.
Right.
And each for $15,000 apiece?
Literacy is 15,000, literacy project is 15, Center for New Americans is 34,800.
It's 34,800. And that's in
For the year.
direct, by the size of the spaces that they have, or,
It includes the childcare space, which they use for another, which I guess is 2,500 a year.
okay.
So those are the two revenues that are coming in, 34,800 and 15,000.
And I can tell you that we've, been in renewed conversations with the community colleges. I met with the president and some of the deans at GCC recently, and we've also had similar conversations with HCC about, trying to bring some more education programs into the building as well as talking to some other, nonprofits that may want to use the building for adult education. So we're trying to see if those spaces get used.
I think the account's a good idea, because it gives us a much better handle on how we're doing. I don't expect it to make money, I expect it to at least cover itself. And space limitations to it, but they talked about several different programs with two community colleges, which was Greenfield and Holyoke, and I don't know.
And also,
Quick
it's Greenfield, it's Holyoke, Westfield State is also interested in some
Oh, I
courses
didn't know.
there.
The court.
The court
uses it.
court uses it now for part of their training, I mean, the jail also uses it,
Yeah, the jail.
the jail uses it for some, work that they do with inmates who are preparing to leave their system, so we're trying to maximize the use of the building. So, and also just make sure we can cover the costs.
Then as budget gets tight, we just,
Exactly, which is why we wanna set up the
Yeah.
revolving fund, we want it to be clear.
I think it's a good idea, yeah, thank you.
And then, and this year, it's heavily supplemented with the, block grant
Right.
that came in.
Yep.
So, there's still enough money to help supplement it next year, and next year's the last year of the debt cert. No, 13 has
Yeah.
one more full year debt payment, and then 14 is half,
Yeah.
and then we're done.
Yeah,
So we still have that block grant money left,
Good.
and we're using that.
excellent.
Council?
I know, with our former mayor, the push was to try to get the colleges involved, and I'm glad to hear, Mayor, that you have met with them, because I know we also brought up about bringing back the nursing course that they had here in Northampton and bring it back over to here, so you can see the movement going on, the GED now that is in there, which is great for everybody here in our city who doesn't have to travel to take it. And, I think the James House is gonna be a great success, that's what I feel about it.
We're working to make sure that that happens, and making sure that the city is able to self-sustaining, so.
The whole building's not full yet, is it?
No,
There's-
there's still some space.
It's not a lot, but there's some
Yeah.
space.
And then there's classrooms that don't only get utilized in the morning, by some of the existing programs, so we're trying to look at ways to have those be rented for evening time, like the colleges, for
Yeah.
example.
Best bang for the buck.
Mhm.
Okay, thank you.
So is there anything else on that? So again, that's just a preview of an order that won't even come to us in FY 12, but it will be in the FY 13 budget, but it's a new revolving fund that we wanted you to be aware of. In terms of other FY 13 updates, obviously, I'm gonna be with two of you tonight at the Bryan Road School, doing one of another series of budget updates and talking about the city budget, and Thursday we'll be meeting with the school committee, the council will be, so we are spending pretty much most of our time now trying to put together the budget, but also working on ways that we can find the savings that we need to close the remaining gap. So, and so that we can present a balanced budget to you a week from Thursday. Yeah,
No pressure.
no pressure. So you probably see the lights on over the weekend in City Hall.
You get your sleeping bags in there?
I think so.
Yeah, so,
Do you have any new surprises?
no surprise.
Since the cherry sheet was,
I wouldn't say any new surprises, other than, I've tried to reiterate to people again that, when the new cherry sheet came out, it put our gap at about 300,000+, but I've chosen to move some of that over to the school, which unfortunately then raised our gap back up again in the 530 range or something like that. So I've tried to emphasize to people that of that new house money, we're giving over 60% of it to the schools to try to help them close their gap. And so that just meant we're needing to really dig deeper to try to find savings or cut expenditures. And there are several, at least 3 to 3.5 positions on the city side that I'll be either not filling or eliminating altogether as to try to fill that gap. So I know that that's an issue on the school side about loss of positions, and so I tried to reiterate to people that we're gonna lose positions on the city side as well in order to close our gap, so. Yes?
I found the superintendent's presentation to be quite upbeat, and I found it to be, I guess, as realistic as possible, but still, in order to make what he was looking for a reality. And he said his intention was to make the public school in Northampton such a great draw that it would create this influx of attendance or people or pupils or whatever. But he was looking for $2.5 million in order to get that to happen.
It was a 10% increase.
Yeah, and there's just, in the real world, where would you take that out of the city side? I mean, it just can't, I understand what he's looking for. I'm just passing a remark that I didn't believe I didn't believe it was something that was that realistic at this point in our time.
Well, as the superintendent said, that it is his job to be the fiercest advocate for the department that he represents, and that is true of the firefighters, it's true of the police, it's true of the people in the gray shirts, people in the orange shirts. And so he's doing what would be expected of him and what he should do. And our job is to sit there and percolate all that stuff, and that ultimately the toughest job is right here. So, because we load the gun, maybe, but he pulls the trigger, you know. Well, we don't even load the gun. No, I don't think in that respect. But the fact is that the thing that I've been most grateful for, these very candid and clear updates and presentations of budget, circumstances, revenue in, money out, and what the challenges are. There's, we've often been accused of saying, when we're getting into a budget season, every season's horrible, and we're accused of crying wolf because somewhere, someone shows up, or someone flips through a hoop, or someone kicks a can down the road, and then, you've got money to deal with it, and so people become more and more skeptical about this. The way the budget's been presented this year, it's difficult for that to have the skepticism, I think, and that, and in fact, actually, one of the challenges for the schools is the contract that they negotiated under intense pressure, and in the political season, having to meet those agreements. That's part of this. But then, of course, that's where this $100,000 goes to some point, at least offsetting that. But the fact is that this is part of the drama, and to some extent part of the theater of budget presentation and deliberation. So we'll play our part.
Yep.
And that is to say, and that's not to say it's an act. I want to be sure about that. This actually, but I think you're right. You mentioned in the context of larger scheme, it's what the mayor has reiterated. These aren't isolated pockets of private enterprises. These are all part of the Northampton enterprise. They all have a holistic effect, and there's consequences to every cut. Every addition there is a substantial cut somewhere else. So what are those? What are our priorities? And that's what I guess you guys are going to find out tonight in the meeting up in your neighborhood. And the mayor's been getting a good sense of what the priorities are of a number of people in the community. So.
And I would ask, how was the turnout at Florence Civic? I was unable to attend that.
I think we had about 25,
That's
25,
good.
something like that. Yeah,
Oh,
it was
good.
full. We had a bunch of
Yeah.
chairs and, something like that. It was a couple dozen.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Good.
And at least a little less than that at the senior center. And last night at Jackson Street School, we didn't have such a great turnout.
Yeah.
I think Mondays are tough.
Yeah.
And so I'm hoping, counting on you guys to set the record tonight.
There you go.
It does great.
And then there's Leeds tomorrow night, and then next week is Bridge Street School. So
I'll be there. My brother's birthday party is happening at the Cellar Bar over in East Hampton,
okay,
but I'll be at
okay,
Ryan Road School.
okay. Okay, so that's all we have really for updates on the FY12 and FY13. Again, a lot of these are just previews for you so that we can look at them in advance, and then we'll bring them forward formally to the Finance Committee. Don't have any new business items that we're aware of. Do you have any?
Yeah, today I spoke with Mary about the TPC minute keeper, and I approved this payment. I don't know if it was my place to or not, and that's why I'm asking. The parking director used to do it.
Yeah.
overstepped my bounds, but I had approved the payment for the minute taker, and I don't know if I,
No, I think we have, that's one of the last little pieces of the parking reorganization that we have to look at, which is that. And that part of that was stemmed from the parking director being responsible for minute taking at those meetings. So we have been subcontracting to a temp agency to
Yeah.
take the minutes. So that's one of the last pieces we're trying to figure out, but I think that's, yeah.
don't get me wrong, I didn't mind doing it, I just wanted to make sure that it was kosher, what I was doing was all right.
Yeah, I think as chair of the commission, you were acting on behalf of the whole commission, so I think that's fine. And we're gonna try to figure out a solution so you're not put in that situation going forward.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Thank you.
Is there any other new business items? If not, I would entertain a
So
motion to
moved.
adjourn.
Second it.
Okay, there's been a motion made and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?